Well, let's set the expectation straight up. If you don't win Texas, can you stay in this race?
Well, I think we're going to do very well in Texas, and I think Super Tuesday could well be the most important day of the entire primary season. We are campaigning all across Super Tuesday, and at this point the facts are clear, that there is only one candidate who has beaten and who can beat Donald Trump. And in Super Tuesday, we are neck and neck with Donald across Super Tuesday. We're going to do very well in Texas, and we are fighting hard to beat him across the country. And I will say, to the 65% of Republicans who recognize Donald Trump is not the best candidate to go head-to-head with Hillary Clinton, the only way to beat him is for us to come together and unite, and our campaign is the only one that can beat Donald. So I ask for your support on Super Tuesday.
Let me ask you this. Is the fairest way to decide who the chief challenger is to Trump is the person who's in second place in delegates come Wednesday morning between yourself and Marco Rubio?
Listen, there's no doubt we're likely to come out of Super Tuesday with a big difference in delegates. I think it is likely that you'll see Donald Trump has a whole bunch of delegates. I think it's likely that we'll have a whole bunch of delegates.
You think you'll be second?
I think there's going to be a big drop-off between Donald and me and the rest of the field. Right now, Donald and I are 1 and 2 in delegates. Right now, Donald and I are 1 and 2 in the popular vote.
Okay.
You know, as you know, historically, no one has ever won the nomination in modern times without winning one of the first 3 states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. Donald and I are the only 2 who have done that.
Let me ask you this. You released summary pages of your tax returns. So did Marco Rubio. And you said the only reason you released summary pages is because Marco Rubio released summary pages. Why should Donald Trump, how are you forcing Donald Trump to release his tax return if you're only releasing the first 2 pages?
Well, listen, I've released 9 years of tax returns. And by the way, the first 5 years have everything. The last 4 have summary pages. I've got 9 years of tax returns. Donald Trump has not released so much as a paperclip. And Donald needs to release his taxes. You know, Mitt Romney this week.
So will you be happy if he just does summary pages? Will you be happy if he just does summary pages?
Look, it would be a very positive step in the right direction. I would be thrilled if he releases the whole thing. I'm happy to release everything. I've released, for 5 years, I've released everything. We just matched what the opponents did for the last 4 years. But the critical point, Chuck, as Mitt Romney observed, the fact that Donald seems terrified to release his taxes suggests that there's a bombshell there. And it's natural to wonder, well, what is it that he's hiding in his taxes? Maybe it's that Donald Trump doesn't earn nearly as much as he has so loudly told everyone. Maybe he's not as rich as he says he is. Who knows? Maybe it's the case that Mitt Romney is richer than Donald Trump. He can answer that by releasing his taxes. On the other hand, maybe it's the case that he has given large sums of money to left-wing groups like Planned Parenthood. You know, he praises Planned Parenthood in the debates over and over again. Maybe he's been a big financial supporter of that. All of those questions Donald can put to rest. Or, you know, Chuck, maybe it is the case that Donald, there have been multiple media reports about Donald's business dealings with the mob, with the mafia. Maybe his taxes show those business dealings are a lot more extensive than has been reported. Regardless of what the bombshell
wait a minute, Senator
is.
Cruz, let me stop you there. That's openly speculative. Do you have any facts to support that Donald Trump has mob ties?
ABC, CNN, multiple news reports have reported about his business dealings with, for example, S&A Construction, which was owned by Fat Tony Salerno, who is a mobster who is in jail. It is owned by 2 of the major New York crime families. And that has been reported in multiple media outlets. You know, you're going to have Donald on the show later today. You ought to ask him, Donald, have you written a check to Planned Parenthood? If so, how much and when? I mean, that's a question that Donald ought to answer. We don't know what it is that he's hiding in those tax returns, but I can promise you this. If he's the nominee come September, October, every day on the news will be about those tax returns, about whatever the bombshell is, and Republican primary voters deserve to know before the nomination, not after, because you better believe Hillary Clinton and the media are going to go to town on it, and the primary voters should be able to vet all of us.
Let me ask you something Rush Limbaugh said earlier this week about your candidacy. He said, Ted Cruz has fought these guys every day that he's been in Washington, and for a lot of reasons, that doesn't register. Basically, it sounds like he was almost lamenting it, but the fact is, Donald Trump stole your outsider brand. Super Tuesday was supposed to be the day you were going to be solidifying your status as the front runner, and it's not turning out that way. How did Trump steal your outsider brand?
Well, listen, I think Super Tuesday will continue to narrow the field. The first 4 states narrowed the field down from 17 candidates to a much smaller field. I think Super Tuesday we will effectively have 2 candidates coming out of it that have a viable path, that have enough delegates to have a shot at winning. And head-to-head with Donald Trump, I beat Donald by 16 points, 56-40. And, you know, we really saw this on the debate last week. We saw a contrast between Washington deal makers. And this is how we've gotten in the mess we're in now, is Republicans who cut deals with Democrats, grow the debt, grow government, and give away our constitutional rights. A contrast between deal makers and a principled constitutional conservative. You know, Chuck, it was striking when Donald Trump said, Ted, you got to be willing to compromise on the Supreme Court. You got to be willing to compromise on religious liberty. Let me tell you, I will not compromise away your religious liberty rights. I will not compromise away your Second Amendment. And Donald Trump is telling us, if he's president, he'll cut a deal with Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer and give away your constitutional rights. That's how we got in this mess.
Let me end where we began. If you are third in delegates Wednesday morning, do you reassess your candidacy?
Well, listen, I don't intend to be third in delegates. I don't believe I am. I think that may be a question you'll have to pose to other candidates. But I will say what we saw on last week was in the seminal battle on amnesty, when I was leading the fight against the Rubio-Schumer Gang of 8 amnesty bill, and we defeated the Gang of 8 amnesty bill, Donald Trump was funding the Gang of 8. He had given over $50,000 to 5 of the 8 members of the Gang of 8. You cannot lead on illegal immigration if you spent 4 decades supporting open border Democrats, and if you've been hiring illegal immigrants as Donald Trump has been doing.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.